Welcome to the 7 Days to Amazing podcast, where you learn how to make your life, business, and style even more amazing in the next week. Now your host, Sharon Haver of FocusOnStyle.com.
Hello, Chicsters. I am Sharon Haver, and you are about to be amazed. If you are an entrepreneur or thinking about running your own show, I have a very special guest on today's episode of 7 Days to Amazing. Jena Rodriguez is a brand strategist, national speaker, author, and founder of Brand with Jena, a brand strategy company that educates, elevates, and inspires entrepreneurs to apply the power of brand clarity to their business so they can increase profitability. Jena knows the risk and leap of faith of entrepreneurship as she went from $700,000 in debt and bankrupt to building a $700,000 business as a brand strategist. That's quite the jump. Starting out, Jena worked at the headquarters of the fashion world's big box retailer, Express, which is part of the Limited Company, where she learned what it truly means to create, define, and sustain a brand. From there, Jena jumped into running her own freelance business as a professional makeup artist, working with individuals, brides, fashion photographers, and various lines such as YSL, Lancome, and MAC. She even did on-camera makeover episodes on the Jenny Jones show in Chicago. Remember that, folks? I sure do. I think I was on Montel Williams during that era. Jena then chose various paths as a marketing specialist, controller, and as the owner of a women's boutique in, I love the name of this town, Sugar Land, Texas. Next, after closing the store, she knew she had to keep working for herself. There was no going back to a job. That career clarity led Jena to a partnership with her husband in the web and graphic design company, which has since evolved into Brand with Jena. So, welcome, Jena Rodriguez. I am thrilled to have you here with us today.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Sharon, for having me. This is going to be a blast.
It is going to be a blast. We should tell people how we met each other so they know.
Yes, so I can tell that story.
You tell that story.
I know you can tell your
story. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll see if match up.
We'll just say this. We met in Vegas. Like, that's enough, right?
Yeah, no, we didn't leave it in Vegas.
We didn't leave it there. No, I know. We were both at this extremely large event, that served entrepreneurs, both of us being sponsors, and we sat next to each other and just hit it off. And I love everything, I like, especially coming from a fashion background, I connected to what you do, and we just, went from there, and it was just such a great intersection back in, getting close to almost a year ago. So
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was great. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy how fast time flies. So what I would love you to do is to really sort of help the audience here on what was your defining moment into shifting your career. Because I know that so many of the listeners either are at a point in their life where they're changing careers and thinking of creating their own business. They were either, lost their job, aged out of their job, sick of their job, or they're like me, and they've been entrepreneurs their whole life. But it's really just to get that brand clarity and the messaging and how you went from working for something as huge as the Express to creating Brand with Jena and working with, one-on-one solo entrepreneurs and, small brands, which are pretty big in our universe, but in the scheme of things, pretty small brands.
Yeah. Yeah, the boutique field, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So the story is certainly a winding road, and you certainly alluded to a lot of the different things that I've done in my life, career, and all that. And, the bottom line is I always had an entrepreneurial spirit at a young age. However, I didn't really have the mentorship for it. It didn't exist in my immediate space. My dad was a computer programmer and worked in corporate America, and he was very much like, go to college, sit in a cubicle 40 years, and then retire. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to shoot myself. I can't do that. and I love you, but you can do that, but it's just not for me. And then my mom was an artist, and she was a, housewife, and she took care of us as at a young age. And that was her choice, her life, her journey. And so I didn't have the entrepreneur in the mix. So it was a lot of figuring it out on my own. And one of the things I discovered as I, entered college, is that I love the numbers. And I was an accounting major for a while. And then I'm also a creative, which doesn't always come together, right? And I wanted to be the fashion designer. I was into fashion and makeup and modeling and things like that at a very young age. So it was just that whole, arena that appealed to me. And I was just blessed to be able to walk into initially in an internship at the Express headquarters I was living in Ohio at the time, Columbus, Ohio. And you drive into the campus and you see, Express, and you see Limited, and you see Victoria's Secret. And at the time we had Structure, and we had Bath and Body Works. I mean, he owned them all, but they clearly, individually had different brands. And I didn't know what the word brand really meant back then. That's not what I'm saying. However, I could feel it. I could feel the difference, and I could feel the impact each of them made, and how they approached the business in differently. And so that was just kind of my intro to to the world of what I do now, clearly. And I never saw that I was, it's not like I had a crystal ball that said, oh, I'm going to be a business coach one day, And however, that's where I began. And then I also wanted to be, I started freelancing at one point and got out of the fashion design as much, and started doing the makeup artistry and really working for myself at a particular level. But I was still trading time, like my hours, for dollars, back then. So it's kind of sometimes where we start, which is fine, right? It's like, we got to get started. And then I found that I was good at marketing. It just, all of it came fairly naturally to me, yet there were certainly things I didn't know about running a business because, again, I didn't have the mentorship. So fast forward, about 10 years ago, I've been an entrepreneur now, solid for about 10 years. And I was working as a controller in a public accounting firm. And I think this is what a lot of people come up against when they're thinking about being an entrepreneur potentially, or they're just wanting more. They're wanting to step into more of their potential and their capabilities. And I wanted, a bigger life and more quality of life and traveling. And I wanted to give my kids something to look forward to. And I was living paycheck to paycheck back then. And I was making a decent salary, just to say the least, in that corporate job. However, I just saw that I could be more, and I wanted more. And I made the decision to jump out there and take that leap of faith of entrepreneurship, and I bought the storefront. And, of course, I was all excited. I'm like, oh, good, fashion, marketing, makeup. It had it all. It, brought all the pieces that I had experience in. All of it came together in this one business formation. And of course, at the same time, there were things that I wasn't aware of, kind of like the things that are in our blind spots. Mm-hmm. Of not knowing what to do, or not knowing how to handle cash flow, or like capital requirements, and making sure the inventory's taken care of. And there was just a lot of moving pieces to the business per se. And the truth is I made $300,000 in 1 year in that store, which I was like, great. It was more than the previous owner had made. Yet I was 2 months behind on my rent. And I was bleeding cash, and I couldn't keep up, right? And I was $700,000 in debt because of the loans and the leases and the inventory and all these things. So even though there was, cash flow, there's a difference, right? There's also profit or loss. And I knew that from being an accountant, clearly. And so my point of this story is that I had this dream. I had this vision of more for myself. I knew that I had a brand to speak of in my own sake, like who I am. And that's what I believe brand truly is. It's who we are. It's what matters to us. It's how we want to serve the world and make an impact. And, branding is something I just came to know as a designer, as far as, graphic design. And what I started to realize is that branding is just an expression of who you are. And if you don't know who you are and what you stand for, then branding's not appropriate necessarily. It's just winging it. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, the bottom line is, like, I had that storefront. I had to make a big decision because, of course, I wasn't able to keep up with the cash flow. And it was 2007 as we were moving into 2008 here in the country. And things were just kind of falling apart a little bit around the seams. And I had to leave the store. But I got the itch. So if you got the itch to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have the guts to keep going. And so I did. I quit that store, and it came with a cost called bankrupt, because I certainly couldn't get out of the hole, right? And it was scary. It was like the worst nightmare. At the same time, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And you got to look at some of the failures and the missteps and the, like, oh craps, and be willing to be like, what's the silver lining? And that's what I found, is that it taught me so much about what I didn't want, what I didn't know, and how to ask for help. And I also realized I wanted to create a freedom lifestyle. I wanted to create a business that didn't tie to a store location. And it gave me more freedom to travel and do the things that I love. And sure enough, I also, like you said in my bio, I realized immediately I did not want to go work for someone else. I got the itch, and I was like, wow, it's a whole different ballgame to be able to be in control and make decisions and be creative. And yet you got to get the help as well. So I knew very quickly that mentorship was the next step for me, but it took me about 2 years to find one.
That is so important. Is the mentorship talk, and I think we should talk about that a little bit too. But one of the things I want to mention is it's like maybe the reason why I love you, because people may not know that about me. I mean, you say you were like an accountant in fashion. I mean, I know it's crazy, right? An accountant in fashion.
It doesn't match.
Yeah, my mother was. My mother was like, she was like the president of the fashion club, and she did that's where I learned everything I needed to ever learn about style and fashion. But she was like, crunching them numbers, which is probably how I learned how to buy clothes on a discount, is because, with mom with the accountant background, there's no way that I was ever allowed to wear expensive clothes, but she certainly knew how to dress me in a way where, I looked like I was worth it on the limited means we had. And that comes from that like insane and she was a Virgo too. So can you imagine? So that insane combination of like this meticulous number accountancy background and just love of fashion. Yep. So that's, that's how I totally get it. So, but what I want to, it's really strange. I know her greatest joy was like on April 15th was, holding off on those taxes until the last minute so she could be online at the main post office in New York City, because they had all these like big brands where they're like Bayer aspirin had like people dressed like aspirin bottles. So it was like her real big thrill. So if she only knew that later my husband and I would like lose a fortune to a screwed up accountant who messed up like crazy. I swear she's kicking somewhere besides me now. Right? It's like that's my bad karma for having a mama who's an accountant. But anyway, I want to tell people to understand is because, when you talk about a brand and as an individual running your own business, we hear this, and as branding is like such a buzzword and no one knows what the hell it is. But, or they say they know what it is, and then you look at people and you're like, no, you don't really have a brand. You're kind of like, tan. You like the khaki slacks out there, you don't stand out. You're not exciting, it's not, you don't really like, people look over you. So like if you are running your own business and this is your gig and you need a way to stand out, to be known for something, like what do you tell people? Like when do they know that they need a brand and how do they start to find one?
Good question. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, actually. Like I said before, I have a very clear distinction just to try to simplify it for people and the way they think about it. And, and just to repeat that, for me, brand is who you are. It's what you stand for. And it's the essence of your business or your, mission or what passion of what you love. And, as we are leaders in a business, whether we are the business, I'm very much like yourself, right? We're very much the face. We're very much in front of our business, right? And then there's businesses that we don't even know who the leader is. We don't even know who the founder or president or, what their name is. And so there's certainly different models. However, what I believe is that brand is about leadership. And if you don't have leadership, you don't have, brand's useless. And so branding is simply the expression of that, right? What it looks like, the colors, the logo, the website, the experience that you create around your brand. Those are branding strategies. And when I worked with my husband, we were building websites and graphic design and building out identity packages and logos and things like that. But what people were missing, or certainly I was struggling to get the information out of the client, was they didn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. They could not articulate who they were as a brand. And I believe brands are not something I create as a strategist or designer or any of that. I believe brands exist within us, and they are as unique as our fingerprints, and we have to uncover what it is. So I sometimes call myself the excavator, right? I know how to ask the right questions to get people to see who they are so that they can articulate it to the world. And then branding is just a way for people to connect with it. And, go ahead.
No. So you were saying before, that you found mentors to help you. So how would you recommend to someone to find a mentor, to find someone to help them excavate this out of themselves? Because, you don't know what you don't know. You don't see what you don't see. So
That's
it's
right.
so easy for so many entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and, just creatives freelancers to not really understand the importance of standing out in a very crowded marketplace, of having your own sense of self, of style, of brand, or whatever it is that, when someone can look at you and say, hey, I know Sharon, she really knows her fashion stuff, but she knows how to relate to real people. Or I know Jena, she worked for these major places, but, she knows how to help me build my business. So it's like, how does someone get to this point where they know they have to ask for someone, and where do they find someone to ask?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer this in a, maybe a different way. One, I think you've got to first decide that you want the help, and then just set an intention that says the right person for me shows up. Yeah. And so that's because what I did. That's honestly what I did. I'm like, I don't know something here because it's not working, and I made a decision called I know I need help. I just don't know who. And then it's knowing, it's knowing what you don't know. It's kind of like, it's being really honest with yourself, going, I'm really good at, my product and my service. I know fashion, or whoever you are, like whatever you do well. And I am bad at knowing the numbers. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to sell myself, let alone. And if you first decide, and then you set that intention that the right person shows up for what you don't know and what blind spots you may have, then I think it's asking. I think it's it's being willing to look out there, whether it's social media or events. It's like you and I hang out at events or sponsor events. We speak, right? So it's like, find people to be in front of. Don't hide out behind just the computer. And I didn't. I started networking. And when I started networking, I met that next person that I resonated with. And if they're being their brand, I believe that's when they show up fully as their expertise and their brand, then it gives me the possibility of connecting with them. And I think that's all of our jobs, is to, we have a solution and we have a service or a product that we're selling. And if we don't show up out in the marketplace, you're absolutely right. Nobody's going to know you exist. And you know what I mean?
That's absolutely. And I think you hit a nail on the head, which we can kind of go off, a couple of tangents on it, because there's such clarity in this, and there's such like murkiness when you see it, is when you said show up fully at an event or show up fully in your business. And I find that as I'm kind of transferring part of my business a bit to working with women entrepreneurs, and it's like I take things for granted in their style, but people forget, like, I have a marketing background and I've been running my own business for 30 years. I spend more time in business than I do in style. Style comes naturally. I don't think about it. I could go and you could, fix it up.
Right.
But like, how do you run your business is what I do. And I'm going more in the success end is really more fulfilling for me right now, but it goes together.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding out is it's that people who claim to be fashion phobic, who have a site where they have that, like, it looks like 1982 HTML on it and those horrible colors.
Right.
And they're wearing, the reading glasses, and they show you their business card, and it looks like they were selling, real estate in Sheboygan in 1967. Yep. And it's just, then they're there, and you ask them what they do, and they go, oh, I'm a marketing genius. I'll help you be rich. And it's like, but you're wearing
right.
Like, here's a mirror. Let's look good, and you don't want to be like a biatch about it, but it's a matter of showing up fully. And that's what you said before. Yeah. And I think that's something we can get into, because people seem to hide in it, and they hide in things that freak them out. And sometimes, especially with women, I notice they will like, let me spend $1,000 on a LinkedIn course. Let me spend $5,000 on how to be a speaker. Let me spend $10,000 in having someone help me design my business card and help me do this, and all these shiny objects, and they're not showing up fully. So even though they have all these distractions around them, what the clarity they need is their brand in different ways, or how their headshot is and how they present themselves online, what they do in social media, the colors they choose, whatever it is that they look like something relevant and modern. So, and when you talk to them and you say like, well, you need to do that, a lot of the times it gets really emotional, and they start really crying because they realize that by being busy with all these shiny objects, they are ignoring what's really deep in their emotion and their heart that they're afraid of. And that comes down with what you need to show up fully again with your brand. So, you want to touch on that a little bit on how people can like stop pussyfooting and get down to business.
Let's get real, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you and I both, I mean, I think that's, why we have so much in common is that, it's like your styling and your knowingness of that piece of the picture and the puzzle that we all have as business owners. And brand is just my doorway. It's my specialty, if you call it. Mm-hmm. And yet I'm a business coach. I'm a strategist. I know how to make money at it. Right. And the brand is the foundation for me. It's a place to start at the same time, marketing and sales and running your operations and all of these pieces that have actually created a successful business is also extremely passionate, for me. And what I noticed, the shift for me, this is the story for myself, actually. My husband, like I said, my husband and I ran a web and graphic design company right after I closed the store. And I just jumped into that going, okay, you need help. He's a musician, and he's he knows the web, but he wasn't building, identity packages, because that wasn't his gig necessarily. And I said, however, I can come in, I can help with the design aspect and some of the business acumen and marketing, and go start networking our business so we can get new sales. Well, here's the thing. In 2012, I realized I was not being my brand, that I was not connecting to who I am and what I'm passionate about. And when I say what I stand for as a brand is helping people see who they are and being unapologetic, being brave about it, and being willing to express themselves in a business that feels good, that makes money, that evolves, that grows and thrives. And it's like, if you know that and I'm not in that place, then you're not showing up. And I was in a business and a model and an expression of who I am that wasn't fitting. And I was walking into network meetings going, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I don't even want to tell people that I build websites, or, that's what our company does. And, cause it's not actually who I was and how I really wanted to serve people. And so I made certainly a hard decision and really pivoted, and I had to come home and tell my husband, hey, this is going to be a hard conversation, but you don't want to do this anymore. You want to go back to music full time, and I don't want to do this anymore the way it is. I want to rebrand it. I want to shift the needle. So, okay. And it's going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So tell me, like, if someone in the next 7 days, in the next week, they know they have to shift their needle. They know they've got to do something in their branding. How can you tell them? Give me like a couple of bullet points here or there on, how they can be more amazing in their branding this week. Just even if it's starting as simple as awareness.
Right, it is. It does start with that inquiry and that awareness. They've got to ask the questions, right? And if they can't ask the questions and get the answers, that's when you hire somebody. But the first thing is to ask yourself, am I serving people the way I want to serve them? And am I, it's like, does my branding reflect the perceived value that I want people to get?
Perceived,
right?
And of course, yeah.
Right. It's a perceived value, because if you don't perceive it first, and nobody else will, and then certainly if you're not showing up that way, like with your website or your image or any of that, then they're not going to perceive it either. So you got to ask, am I, and what do I want, and like what do I want to? What's the vision of my business and future, and am I walking in that vision? That's one, right? Just ask the questions. Two is do an inventory of your branding. Are you being consistent? Have you up-leveled it in, the last year or 2 years?
Like some of them
I'm
going,
years. It's like 20 years. I'm in a rebranding this year. That's one of my goals this year, is to, rebrand, right? So that people can see me as how I have grown up. Because we grow up, we evolve in our business as brands. So that's number two. And, number three, just take inventory of the results you're getting. Because if you aren't actually attracting the right clients, making the money that you want to make, and, and asking for it in a way that's empowering, it's like stop trying to discount yourself and trying to be everything for everybody. If you're doing all that and it feels yucky, then you're not being your brand either.
Yeah,
and so, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. So it's the value of walking in your truth, basically, taking an inventory, and are you relevant? Is it time to up level? Are you representing yourself, and are you getting the results that you want?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, right?
And then hire the help when you get the answers and you don't know what to do next. You're going to have to hire the help, whether it's me or you or someone, someone in your network group, or, find someone that you feel comfortable with that could, or just at least have a conversation with somebody, right? And see what's next to really get to the results that you want. Because there's usually the results we have is like the symptom, it's the byproduct of how we're showing up in our business or how we're not showing up. And sometimes we have to have help to see what that looks like and how to get around it, or what's the strategy to get out of it.
And also,
and that's what I do.
Yeah, and the thing that you said earlier is also so important. It's like, we're not perfect people. Is knowing what your shortcomings are. If sales is not your thing, then hire a sales team or figure out a way not to sell. Or, if like design is not your thing, hire a real designer. But that's also another thing. A lot of people, what I find, which is kind of interesting, because I know we're almost at the end of this, and I want to give you a couple more seconds, but what I find is interesting, and maybe you can help people on this, because it is a really important branding thing. It's like, if somebody is like icky and yucky in how they show up, and, their perceived value is kind of like schleppy and so then instead of going to someone who could package you and make you look great, which I would want to give my money to, they find like meets like. So like you found the schleppiest designer on the planet who is now giving you what you want because you don't know better. So it's like, how do you actually get someone to realize that when you hire someone, when you find a mentor, when you find a consultant, their job is to lift you up and raise your image and raise your perceived value, and not find someone who yeses you, who keeps you looking like, ugh.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I'm not a yes. I mean, I always say I have a velvet boot. I'm like, I'll kick you in the right places and, make you, make good decisions. But, because that's honestly, it's because I stand for something bigger. Sometimes I stand for you, the client before you stand for yourself. And so, I apologize. I was listening to what you were saying. I'm like, is there a question for me? What's the question?
The question is like, how does somebody know to find someone who
Okay.
You know, who's going to elevate you, and rather than finding someone who's just going to yes you into your blondness.
Yes, for sure. You know, I think for one, is to, you know, it's like you do your research. I mean, you know, it's like I am very clear on my point of view, which I think is also part of the brand, is knowing that, you know, and I get stronger. We all get stronger and stronger and stronger in our point of view as we grow our businesses, right? And as we get social proof, and as we go like, oh, well, I can help people make 800% increases in a year. Then I've got, you know, like, I know what I'm doing, you know, at some level. So you got to get strong in your point of view. And if you've got this sense that you're like, I call it brand shame. And this is a tool that I give people. If you can look at a scale of 1 to 10 right now, and I even have a little brand shame because my branding is not representing who I have become and where I'm going. So it's like, that's why I know it's time to hire a team to help me, you know, rebrand.
I'm with you too on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It happens. And so brand shame versus brand pride. And so if you look at a scale of 1 to 10, just grade yourself. Where do you feel, what is the feeling? Do you feel disconnected from your branding? Do you feel like, wow, I'm not getting the results that I really want? I feel like something's disconnect or, you know, off. And then give yourself a score, you know, between 1 and 10, 1 being brand shame and like you're in the dumps about it, to brand pride and you're like, oh my gosh, I love my stuff. I love how things are showing up. I love my results. Everything's starting to work. And that's when you can know that you need if you want to be a 10 and you're not, then you clearly there's something missing and you need help with it potentially.
Sure,
and the other thing is interview the people, interview them, you know, have a conversation. Like for me, I offer people, you know, they go to my website, fill out a quick form so I can acclimate myself to people and they can apply for a 30-minute conversation with me so that I can help them see what's the next step. And interview me just as much as I'm asking the questions. And if you don't feel like I'm the right fit, I'm okay with that. I'm not for everyone. And so, you know, if you're looking for the help, find the people that have a point of view that you can resonate with and that can move you forward because they have the results that you admire and that you aspire to have. And I think that's how you start to find the right person for you.
Absolutely. So tell me, Jena, I like to ask people this question. What does amazing mean to you in a brand?
Amazing?
Amazing.
You know, amazing is, for me, a feeling that I generate. It's a choice. And it's the sensation or the sense that I'm in the right space, I'm in the right place, and I am doing what I love, and life is simply amazing. And I can say that even in the darkest of times because I know it's perfect. I know that where I am is where I'm supposed to be. And trust me, when I filed bankruptcy, I may not have been able to see it at that moment. But when I look back, it's like everything's on purpose. Therefore, my life and business is amazing. And the clients I get to serve and the podcasts I get to be on. And, you know, like it is amazing. It's a choice that I get to have. I can choose to say life is amazing or I can choose to say it's not. And so that's what it is to me.
That's great. Yeah, I love the way you said that. And it is a choice. It is a choice. We all choose it. And also, you know, my husband gets a little crazy with me when I'm like saying, well, I'm setting my intention. I just kind of like, this is what I want to happen now. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, no, I really believe what you said earlier about the power of thought of just like, even if it's unconscious, sometimes things happen. Like you're sitting at a time, you're like, you know, instead of I wish I could, it's just like, that would be great. Or you just keep going on your day. Cause I think even subconsciously it guides you in the path you want to be. And things happen. I do get a little woo woo, you know, even though I am the daughter of an accountant, you know, I get a
little woo woo too.
Yeah. Not
I think
too
it's all
woo-woo,
good.
Not too woo woo. Some of it gets a little weird, but you know, a little, you know,
right.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So tell me, Jena, how do people find you? How do they connect with you? What is the best way to find Jena Rodriguez?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you can search my name. I'm sure a couple things will pop up on Google. But certainly visiting me. Me too. I got to check everything. We have to manage our reputations, right? So yeah, you should Google your name once in a while. Brand with Jena. That's Jena with one N. Brand with WITHJENA.com is my website, and all, you know, my social media links are there. My podcast is there. My events are there. There's free resources. I even added a new, complimentary report that's all about your messaging and your 60-second intro. That's there as well. And, just email me if you'd like to, speak to me directly. And that's all there on the website.
And she's a lot of fun, too.
Aw, thank you. You do.
You're welcome.
We always have fun.
Yes. So thank you for being on the show today. And everyone, I really encourage you to reach out to Jena. She's fantastic, as you can tell. And we will see you next time.
That's a wrap. Well, not so fast. Don't forget to hop over to focusonstyle.com for exclusive content to help you live your most amazing life with style and success. For even more great stuff that Sharon only shares by email, subscribe to her In the Know list at www.focusonstyle.com/insiders. See you next time.